I'm Kate.
I'm Avon.
And I'm Sonia. And today we're dishing with you from H Street Country Club, located at 1335 H Street Northeast. And it's awesome. We have these great little drinks, and for $7 you can play the miniature golf course right behind where the camera is. So you have to come here to see it. You can't just
It actually looks like a country club, to be completely frank with you. No, I'm serious. But our guest today is Philippa Hughes, who is the Chief Creative Contrarian for the Pink Line Project. And I don't even know what a contrarian is. What is a contrarian?
Well, the idea of the contrarian is that it fits in with this idea of how DC has this sort of staid, stodgy perception about it. And what I'm trying to show is that there's a lot of creative talent here. There's a lot of really cool stuff happening that's not just underground, but it's just not noticed. And I want to show people that things are being done differently here.
In what way? Like, what is, and specifically, how would you do that?
Well, I have a blog that I document everything that happens that I think is really interesting and cool. But I also developed a website that is a calendar of all things cool and arty in DC, and I focus on those kind of undergroundy things. I don't the Smithsonian is on there, but it's not the focus of the site.
What about the Pink Line? So I think at a time pink was like, you're like, oh, pink, but now it's sort of, I feel like everybody's doing pink. Pink this, pink that, yeah. Pink breast cancer, pink cherry blossom.
The cherry blossom.
So maybe that's just overpowering, but
blossoms.
Tell us about the name of your group and why you chose pink and what it sort of signifies.
It's a couple references. One was I was trying to think of something that was very DC, and so I thought about like how we have the red line and the orange line, and so the pink line brings everything together into one sort of community and one sense of connectivity. But the reason for that particular color is that it's a reference to the punk movement that happened here in the 80s. And I'm not so much into the punk music, but I'm really into the idea of doing things differently, do it yourself, questioning authority, not always doing things the same way that it's always been.
Totally into that.
If we had a pink line, I want to go back to your metro analogy. If we had a pink line, where would it go in the city? What would go from where to where? I mean, you want to go through the center of the city. Is it going to parallel K Street? Probably not, according to what you're following.
That's right. It would. I mean, I feel like it would encircle the city and connect all the different places. Like it would go from H Street over to Columbia Heights to Mount Pleasant. Maybe it might even go into Virginia.
Ooh, thank you for that, because there is just some sort of thing about Washingtonians like, oh, Virginia, oh, it's so over there, it's so far away. But there's some really cool places.
There's some great places
where you can hear awesome bands that are literally 2 seconds outside of Washington.
I live in Virginia too, so can you give me an example of a place that I could go in
Well,
Virginia?
actually,
there's
something coming on the horizon called the Arlington Cultural Center. The new name for it is the Artisphere, and it's where the museum used to be.
That's
it's
right.
That round dome in
Great
Roslyn.
space.
Yeah, and it's going to become an amazing cultural space with theater, dance, art, everything in one place.
Now you really, everybody thinks of DC as a political city, and then more and more we're thinking of it as an artistic city, but I think you were really on the cutting edge of that. You kind of showed us that there's a lot of grassroots artistic happenings here. How did you decide that that's what you were going to focus on, and how were you able to predict that it would be that way?
I didn't predict it. I did it for completely selfish reasons, because I used to be a lawyer, and I was so desperate to find really cool, creative things for myself to do, and I couldn't find it. So I did it myself, basically, and people were interested in it. It was really cool to see how people responded.
There's probably a lot of people like you who are probably bored out of their minds.
Totally.
And
or afraid of high culture,
and
they want to
make some change, and afraid of pursuing their creative outlet. So I mean, I've seen you around the past several years doing this, also usually with a charity component. But is there any charitable works that are associated with Pink Line Project?
Well, my focus is to help emerging artists become known and to give them opportunities to show their work. So I wouldn't call it charitable, but that is my idea, is to help to show that these artists who would not ever have other opportunities to show their work or to play their music, to give them those opportunities.
Well, tell us some of the things that the Pink Line Project does. So you're helping artists, but in what way? Are you helping them to get their paintings in restaurants for sale? What are you doing for them?
Well, for example, this Friday I am organizing an event at the Textile Museum, and I'm going to have a couple emerging musicians there, a band called the Four Horsemen. 4 amazing young talents who are classically trained, but they play this amazing.
I have heard of them. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So great. and they're going to be playing. DJ Robin Bell is going to be playing. He's actually very known outside of DC, so it'll be fun for him to sort of let people see in DC what he can do. There's a performance art group that they're going to be leading these gallery tours. They're called We Are Science, and they're basically improv performance artists. So it's not like going to be any gallery tour you've ever seen before.
So how do you decide what to showcase or who to focus on? I mean, 'cause it seems like you have
art
artists.
is so controversial too.
Exactly.
And how do you know who's good and who's not good?
Exactly.
Who deserves your help?
It's it's a gut feeling, because the fact is that I'm out and about to a lot of art events. I see a lot of music, so it's a gut feeling, and I think that in a way that's how art and culture works. Is that you need certain people to be sort of your gatekeepers to decide that, and whether you agree with them or not is another question. But somebody has to sort of make those decisions.
So do you just have art all over your walls at your house? I mean, you
yeah.
just like collect it. What is your type of art? What do you like?
No, I'm glad you asked that, because actually that's another thing I'm really interested in. Is I'm really interested in emerging artists. I'm really interested in giving them opportunities. But what I'm really wanting to do is to encourage collectors, and not just collectors of objects, but collectors of experiences. And so I have created in my own home what I think of as an experience. Every surface is covered with art in some way, and not just objects, but I've had artists come in and paint murals on my walls. And my idea behind that is not just that you should have art objects, but that you should live a life that's inspired by art and creativity. And so I want to show people how you do that by surrounding yourself with it at all times.
You said you were a lawyer, so do you have any sort of art background, or you just love anything that's visually
appealing?
Yeah.
Sensory
Has
appealing?
all of this inspired you to maybe start dabbling in art yourself? Maybe sculpture, painting, music?
No, not at all. In fact, I at one point I made the decision that I'm going to let the artist make the art, and then I'm going to do what I'm good at, which is organizing people and promoting people, but I'm not good at making art.
And appreciating the art.
And appreciating the art, exactly. And being, sort of a cheerleader for it.
And that it's okay to go out to Virginia to see some art.
Absolutely. There's great art in Virginia. There's
What
great
about
art in
Maryland? Maryland? Okay.
Absolutely.
Really? Maryland?
There
Give it a try.
actually there's a new art center in Maryland called the Gateway Art Center, and they're trying to create an entire arts district out there. It's actually very exciting. There's art studios, art spaces. It's very, very cool.
So you're also pretty involved with the Cherry Blossom Festival, which is very appropriate since
Because
it's
it's pink.
Because it's pink. And you've been doing the Cherry Blast event for the last few years. What's that?
Cherry Blast was the Cherry Blossoms alternative art and music party, and they approached me to do something like that. But the first year they weren't quite sure whether they should do something like that. They have a very sort of traditional program, but that first event really blew them away. It attracted a really young, I don't want to say alternative, but kind of a younger crowd that would not normally have been interested in the Cherry Blossom Festival. And so now it's an official event of the festival.
And one of the most popular events of the festival, if I do say so myself. Yeah. Well, we're sitting here amongst the cherry blossoms, so we're all thinking about it. We're all thinking pink, and we're all wondering where the pink line would go.
And how to be a little punky as we go into the spring.
And
You started.
I'm trying. I'm going on a whole new direction.
Yeah.
She's even got pink in her hair. So if you want to know how you
Awesome.
can think pink and learn more about the Pink Line project, make sure that you check out Philippa's site and blog and everything else she's doing around town. We're really loving what you're doing and showcasing new artists, and we hope we can work with you on that. And as always, thank you for joining us here on the District Dish.